Welcome, everybody. This is your Week 10 Thursday Night Showdown Slate DFS preview from Club Fantasy, or otherwise known as Oh Captain, My Captain. I am Josh Hudson, one of the hosts of Club Fantasy's No Punt Intended on Wednesday nights. And with me, as always, our captain, Mr. Oklahomie Doug. What's up there, brother?
Hey, what did the first mate say when he walked to the restroom? What'd he say?
God. You know I'm not good with these dad jokes.
Captain's log.
Yes, that's what you can expect on these little mini episodes.
Hi, Josh. I missed you, buddy. It's been a week. It's been a long
It has
week.
been. Yeah, we didn't get to do another Showdown Slate last week. So
yeah, these kids, man, basketball season, soccer season, Fortnite season. It's
family always comes first here at Club Fantasy, so handle your business. But with that said, we're back here to preview Week 10, and I don't even know what to say about this Thursday night matchup between the Dolphins and the Ravens, because I'm warning everybody right now, this whole episode just needs to be retitled. We're shitting on the Dolphins through 9 weeks of the NFL season, because holy crap, has this defense been god awful. I'm going to go through and read some fantasy stats here, and then I'm going to let Doug kind of preview some other stuff as we get into his both optimal and honorable mention lineups for the Draftkings Thursday slate here. But the Miami Dolphins defense against quarterbacks in DraftKings scoring, sixth most fantasy points allowed to quarterbacks. They've allowed the 10th most fantasy points to running backs. On top of that, the 8th most targets allowed to running backs. They've allowed the 3rd most fantasy points to wide receivers. And by the way, have 2 of the most highest paid corners in the NFL, in Byron Jones and Xavier Howard. They allow the 12th most fantasy points to tight ends, which is equally disturbing, seeing as how they have a top 3 fantasy tight end on their team in Mike Gesicki. So you'd think they'd learn how to defend them.
Maybe he can play safety.
And to boot, no pun intended, the 3rd most fantasy points allowed to kickers. So, Doug, I'm going to say in your optimal lineup, we're starting off with not a Baltimore Raven in your captain slot, but we're starting with Miami wide receiver, rookie wide receiver, mind you, Jalen Waddle, who's currently priced at $12,300 as the captain. So walk me through this process as the Ravens allow the 8th fewest fantasy points to wide receivers so far through 9 weeks of this young 2021 season.
Well, see, what it is a lot of those stats you read are bad. They're real bad. But one thing the Ravens are bad at, too, is defending the pass and plays in chunks. Let's see right here. I got the Ravens defense 23rd in the league or 31st in the league in passing yards per game, 282. Jalen Waddle has averaged 8 targets per game, catching 6 of those. Let's see, 43 targets over his last 4 games. Mix that with a bad pass. And last week's straight and arrow Doug approach. Yeah, abort. We made that walk the plank.
Abandon ship.
we're going down. So we're going back to zigging and zagging. I don't think Waddle will be in a lot of lineups. I expect the Ravens to beat the crap out of the Dolphins. Therefore, whether it's Brissett or Tua, they got to throw to get back in the game possibly. And, hey, Brissett wasn't that bad. He can get Waddle the ball. And
yeah, I mean, in Jacoby Brissett's 4 starts this year in weeks 3, 4, 5, and 9, Jalen Waddle has 13 targets, 4 targets, 6 targets, and 10 targets. So opportunity will be there for Jalen Waddle. What really is going to decide that is, can he punch it into the end zone? Something he's only done in 2 games so far this year. Right. So filling out the rest of this lineup under Jalen Waddle, we have the highest priced player in this week's slate, Lamar Jackson, I don't think it's any secret.
To all of that stuff that you said.
I don't think there's any secret as to why you should be plugging Lamar Jackson, who has been godlike so far this year.
It should be, Joshua, in my opinion, it should be the most drafted captain to this point in a primetime matchup, to this point in the Draftkings Captain Showdown lineups. I think Lamar Jackson, this game, will be the most drafted captain. Therefore,
Zig and zag, baby. Zig and
zagging, baby. Zig and zag. Okay. All right.
Filling out this lineup, Mark Andrews. We already talked about how pedestrian the Dolphins are at tight ends. His price in this slate as a flex is $8,800. Mack Hollins at $4,200. Many people probably wouldn't be thinking that. But let's stop and remember Will Fuller on IR, Devontae Parker on IR. Little known facts, Mack Hollins was actually the wide receiver 2 for the Dolphins in snap counts last week. And Doug, I know you said you had some stats here on Mr. Mack Hollins.
Yeah. I wrote down one. It was kind of hard finding any guy. Ain't had a whole lot of targets, but as you said, Parker going down, Fuller not active this game, so he's going to be the number 2. Check this out. Over the last 4 games, Mack Hollins has averaged half a touchdown. Half a touchdown a game over the last 4 games. That leads the NFL. Half a touchdown a game over the last 4. Or it leads the team, leads the team, not the NFL, okay? Right. So that's, and averages 4 targets a game over the season.
Hey, if he can get 4 targets for 3 catches and a touchdown, I think that's a pretty solid get for somebody that's $4,200.
They use him also as like a tight end. And what are the Baltimore Ravens? The worst team in the league at covering tight ends.
Yeah.
So maybe they put him, bunch him up a little bit more, and definitely in the red zone, he's just like a tight end, super tall threat. So back off.
And then Devonta Freeman at $6,600, and the GOAT kicker, Justin Tucker, at $4,000. As previously mentioned, Miami gives up the 3rd most fantasy points to kickers in DraftKings scoring. I think you're going to see Justin Tucker in quite a few flex spots simply because of the price point, especially if you're paying up for Lamar Jackson, who as a captain is $20,000, $20,700. Very, very, very pricey. So you're going to need a lot of low value here, low dollar value,
Little nugget about Devonta Freeman. Even though, because I know a lot of people are going to say, what about Bell? What about Bell? Even though in the last 2 games he's only had 4 rushing attempts and 9, he's had 12.9 DK points and 11.3. So with just 13 carries over the last 2 games, he's still managed 24 fantasy points over the last 2
and Bell
games.
got the red zone touchdown, last week against the Vikings. So,
and we'll talk about him in just a second. We'll talk about him just a second.
As we get into that honorable mention lineup, Senior Captain, instead of going Freeman, who's leading right now the Ravens running backs in snap counts, we're zigging here and putting Le'Veon Bell in the captain spot, saving some money here as he's only $8,100 as the captain. We just mentioned he got the red zone touchdown last week. Miami's defense in the red zone. Take it away, Doug.
Defense. But anyway, here's one thing. I watched the entire game again for the Ravens to see what they were doing with Freeman and Bell. One thing I really keyed on was see what they were doing in the backfield. It was pretty much, 50-50. I believe it was 11 rushes for Bell, and I believe 13 for Freeman.
Correct.
Freeman averaged 6.1 yards per rush. Bell just under that, I think 5.7. But anyway, here's what I noticed. When that game went to overtime, guess who trots out on the field? Le'Veon Bell. He comes out, gets a huge first down for him on 3rd down. As you said before that, got the red zone carry. But Freeman was the one that got a little dump off pass for a touchdown, so he's the running back that got the touchdown. What I'm saying is I think as blowout side as this might going to be, I think they just might go, let's let Lev Bell have a little fun. He's been on the couch for a while. We know how bad the defense is. Lamar Jackson in the option all day long. They're going to put a spy on him and Jerome Baker. I think Le'Veon Bell gets 16 touches. Over under 16 touches. I think he gets 16.
That's lofty because he hasn't seen very much in the receiving game, but we know how talented he is as a pass blocker. So putting him in on third downs is definitely key to help this Ravens offense move forward. Filling out this lineup here, again, the previously mentioned Lamar Jackson. I don't think we really need to talk too much about him, sitting at 13,800. You also have Marquis Brown, wide receiver for the Ravens, here at 11,000. I believe he was wide receiver 5 last week. 9 catches, 116 yards on 12 targets. He is right now the game breaker in this Ravens offense. We mentioned how bad Miami is at wide receivers, allowing the third most Draftkings points to the position so far through 9 weeks. We previously talked briefly about the tight ends. Not a whole lot in terms of Miami, but you are plugging Mike Gesicki into this lineup. Now, I feel like there's a lot of, we'll say, negative press about the Ravens and covering tight ends. And so much of that had to do with the first 2 weeks because they faced Darren Waller and Travis Kelce. But they really haven't got much better. And Mike Gesicki is tight end 3 on the season.
And did you see those 2 catches that man made last week against the Texans? Did you see those 2 catches?
Freak.
Forget about Odell's catch. But don't even think about the catch anymore because those 2 catches in this same game were better than that catch. That dude is a beast, man. He's a dog. 18.44 fantasy DK DraftKings fantasy points per game is what the Ravens allow. 2 tight ends, even with the 2, and all the way up to now, 18 points per game to the tight end in DraftKings. Woo!
Mike Gesicki will probably be the most rostered Miami Dolphin in this showdown slate. I think you can probably bank on that. I personally wouldn't even mind shaping some captain spots around him.
Yeah, but I thought, but like you said, everybody knows that. Everybody knows that the Ravens are terrible against the tight ends. So
zig when people zag, yeah, absolutely. And then filling this out, we have Rashad Bateman. We talked about how bad the Dolphins are at wide receiver. Bateman's Bateman's very good. Coming in last week,
is good
8 targets,
football.
3rd behind Brown and Andrews, 5 catches, 52 yards. You can see he's steadily increasing not only his snap share, but his targets and yards. If there's going to be a breakout game for Rashad Bateman, I think this very well could be that week. And then filling it out with Jason Sanders at 3,400. I don't know how much I love that just because the Ravens have done pretty well against limiting kickers. But, Doug, I know you had an interesting stat as to why you thought Sanders could be in play here as a flex option at 3,400.
Minus not having enough money to play Justin Tucker.
It's all about the money, folks.
Sanders 5+ fantasy points in all but 1 game this season. Like I said, not being able to afford Justin Tucker. Once you get past the kickers, we're talking defenses. No way I'm playing either one of these defenses in this matchup. So,
yep. And that's been the thing with Thursday night. Just when you think it's going to be a blowout, games tend to be a lot closer than they really are.
Yeah.
So I don't
it'll be 9-6.
Yeah, this definitely isn't going to be a week where
100%.
There's like 13 points scored max by each team. Like these teams are going to show up. The defenses are likely going to struggle. And just like we end every show, I'll give you some late dollar dart throws here. And I'm going to start at the very, very bottom because really when you're looking at these low price points, you're really looking at snap share and opportunity costs. So I'll start with Baltimore tight end Eric Tomlinson, who currently is the tight end too. And that's the thing really with both of these teams. They trot out their entire tight end depth chart. Miami uses Gesicki. They use Durham Smythe. They also use
Shaheen. Adam Shaheen.
Adam Shaheen. Yeah, there you go.
What's his name?
Shaheen.
Shaheen.
Yeah. And
like
then Baltimore does the same with Mark Andrews, Eric Tomlinson, as well as Josh Oliver. Tomlinson currently sits at $200. Cheap dart throw. Get a couple points out of it. It becomes worth the cost at that point. Albert Wilson, Miami wide receiver, currently at $400. He was third in snaps last week. And again, as ravaged as Miami is at the wide receiver position, you have some opportunity here, depending on who starts, obviously. I know it's very up in the air. Tua was a very late scratch with the finger last week, coming on a short week. Maybe he's, highly questionable going into this game. But again, the opportunity being there if he's on the field and playing these snaps. Previously mentioned Adam Shaheen. He's third on the depth chart, which is why he's third in pricing here at $600. But I'll also add Durham Smythe into this conversation, who's at $1,800.
Yeah, I like
a little more expensive, so maybe pivot towards the lower price guy. And another Miami player, running back Salvon Ahmed, currently at $800.
Yeah.
We saw Myles Gaskin get a ton of
20 carries. 20 carries. 34 yards.
Yeah, not great, folks. Not great. And here's the thing that we've seen with Myles Gaskin. Those weeks when he pops in fantasy points, he comes down to earth the following week. So that terrible average could yield some opportunity to Ahmed if they're trying to jumpstart this offense, because clearly it ain't getting done with Myles Gaskin.
I'll throw it to Gesicki every time. Just snap the ball and just throw it to him.
My final dart throw, and it's probably not going to be a very popular choice, and he's only $1,000 in this showdown slate. Fullback Patrick Ricard.
Yeah.
He actually leads the backfield in Baltimore in snap share the last 2 weeks. He is on the field more than Freeman, than Bell, than Tyson Williams. He is the guy that is on this field. And as I mentioned before, Miami allows the 8th most targets to the running back position. Patrick Ricard had 5 targets last week for 3 catches and a touchdown. I'm not saying it's going to happen again this week. Yeah, but again, when you look at opportunity cost, you want people that are on the field and being utilized. Right. There's a chance that he can be utilized because we know he's on the field. For only $1,000, again, if you're paying up for Lamar, wanting to start Marquis Brown in that captain spot, those are some high dollar guys. You're going to need to pay down at some of these flex spots. And I think Patrick Ricard is somebody that could fit that mold for you. So with that, Doug, any final thoughts here on the Thursday night slate?
Nope. I like your hair.
Oh, well, thank you.
You're welcome.
And with that, I'm Josh Hudson. You can find me on Twitter at @TheOneHudsonian. That is Oklahomie Doug, just like that on Twitter at Oklahomie Doug. We will see you guys maybe later this week. If not, definitely next week for week 11. Stay tuned. Wednesday nights, we do No Punt Intended on the same YouTube page. Thursday nights, we'll have DFS and Chill with special guest Chris Robin this week. And as always on Saturdays, start sit, different day, 11 a.m. Eastern this Saturday. We'll see you guys then. Have a good one, folks.